Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day and clicking on this video. Coming your way on the show, 4 blockbuster NBA trade ideas now that the NBA draft lottery is set. Bleacher Report cooked up some really fascinating trade ideas with some star players in the NBA as this NBA offseason figures to be lit. We take a look at trade idea number 1. It's a deal between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Detroit Pistons. In this trade idea, the Blazers would receive Jerami Grant. The Detroit Pistons would receive Eric Bledsoe, Keon Johnson, the former first-round pick, and a 2022 first-round pick, which is currently slated for number 7 overall. Obviously, the star player in this deal is Jerami Grant, who's entering the final year of his contract. Limited sample size with the Pistons this past year because of injury, as he kind of hurt his thumb a little bit. 20 points per game, though, little less than 5 boards, 2.5 assists, only shot about 41.5% from the floor, but the player development that's taken place over time has been really impressive for Jerami Grant. Coming out of Syracuse, he was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. He had a corner 3. He was really bouncy and athletic. That's basically all he was, but he's added to his offensive arsenal over time, and he's become a very solid player. And what this would do for the Portland Trail Blazers, give Damian Lillard a player that allows you to compete right now, because when you have Damian Lillard, you don't want to go through a rebuilding process. You kind of hit that reset button last year by trading away C.J. McCollum. You want to get back on the winning track in what is going to be a stacked and competitive Western Conference. Jerami Grant might allow you to do that, and you're not giving up much outside of that first-round pick and a former first-round pick in Keon Johnson. So I want to ask you this for all of you watching right now. Who wins the trade? Is it the Blazers? Is it the Pistons? I want to hear from all of you in the comment section right now. POR for Portland, DET for Detroit. Trade idea number 2, between the New York Knicks and the Houston Rockets. With this trade, the Knicks would be able to get a really good front court player in Christian Wood, who can play the 4, little bit of 5. He can stretch the floor and offer you a 3-point threat, and a very good 3-point shooter in Eric Gordon, who is older, but coming off one of the best shooting campaigns of his career, a career that's been really impressive. As for the Rockets, they get a really good big in Mitchell Robinson, who doesn't need to do a bunch offensively, but with the Rockets, he doesn't really need to be asked to do a bunch offensively other than some putback dunks, dashing to the rim and throwing down some alley-oops. He's also a really good rim protector. Cam Reddish would be on yet another team after yet another trade, and I think he'd be a nice little wing piece for the Houston Rockets, and Kemba Walker as a little bit of a salary dump. Mitchell Robinson, you take a look at what he's been able to do the last 4 years. I think he's shown some growth on both ends. He's not going to be a guy who's going to knock down an elbow jumper, knock down a baseline jumper. He's not going to shoot the 3, and he's a little bit of a liability when it comes to shooting free throws late in games, but as a rim protector, as a rim runner, as a guy who can work a little 2-man game with some of the young pieces on the Rockets, including Jalen Green, somewhat intriguing. This past year with the Knicks, 8.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, nearly 2 blocks, and converted on about 76% of his field goals. For the Knicks, you get Christian Wood, who over the last 2 years has put up some really impressive production. 19 points per game, almost 10 rebounds, so he's going to give you about a double-double night in, night out. You do lose something defensively by trading away Mitchell Robinson and bringing back Christian Wood, because he's not known as a defensive stalwart, but he's a very efficient offensive player. 51% on his field goals and nearly 38% from 3 with volume. With this trade idea, who do you think wins it? Is it the Knicks? Is it the Rockets? NYK for New York, HOU for Houston. Let me know in the comment section once more. Trade idea number 3. Star power to this one because of who the Hornets receive. DeAndre Ayton. Of course, this would have to be a sign and trade, as Ayton set to be a free agent after the Suns didn't give him the bag last year. The Suns get P.J. Washington, Kelly Oubre, who I think can be a starter or a wing player for you coming in off the bench, Mason Plumlee, and a 2022 first-round pick. I think the Suns might tinker a little bit with their roster, and according to reports, Monty Williams, not the biggest DeAndre Ayton fan, So with the guy who you pick number 1, you're trying to get something back for him, right? You would have to at least. You don't want to let your former number 1 overall pick walk for nothing. Ayton this past year, while he was a little bit inconsistent, a little bit wobbly, and he wasn't all that great in that playoff series against the Dallas Mavericks, a series in which he should have been better because the Mavericks don't have a bona fide 5. He was good and put up solid numbers in the regular season, and he's still a really young player who can occasionally hit some jump shots and occasionally knock down a 3. A lot of modern-day NBA value there. 17 points per game, 10 boards, almost a block per night. I think that figure should be higher because of how athletic he is and how good he's been as a rim protector at moments in his NBA career, 63% on his field goals. With this particular trade idea, who do you think wins it? I think the Hornets do. Can you imagine LaMelo Ball playing with DeAndre Ayton? He's never played with a big man the caliber of DeAndre Ayton, and I think that two-man game could be really, really fascinating. CHA for the Hornets, PHX for the Phoenix Suns. Lastly, this trade idea, one of the bigger ones that we're going to break down on today's show. The Cleveland Cavaliers win the Bradley Beal sweepstakes and land one of the best bucket getters in the NBA. The Wizards get Collin Sexton, who's been made expendable because of Darius Garland becoming an all-star. Lauri Markkanen's tenure in Cleveland doesn't last long because he goes to the nation's capital as well. But when you're getting a player like Bradley Beal back, you got to give up a couple of first-round picks. Last lottery pick at 14, as well as a 2025 first-round pick to help absorb the blow of losing Bradley Beal, who's been terrific for the Washington Wizards for a really long time since getting drafted out of Florida. Now, Beal did have a little bit of a 2022 drop-off. I think a big part of that was the injury that he suffered to his wrist, which actually cost him about half of the season, 23 points per game, 45% shooting last year, and only connected on about 30% of his three-point attempts. That came as a little bit of a surprise because the year before, he finished runner-up in the NBA scoring title race behind Steph Curry, and he was awesome. In fact, he's been an elite offensive player for a couple of years now. You look at what he did in 117 games played from 2019 to 2021 to average over that amount of time, nearly 31 points per game, is awfully impressive. You're not really looking for him to rebound the basketball or dish out dimes, but 6.5 assists last year and 5 the year before that, pretty solid. 47% shooter from 2019 to 2021. And about 35% from 3. I think he's more the player to the left as compared to the guy on the right who struggled a little bit. And I think that's the player that the Cleveland Cavaliers would get. And you pair him alongside Darius Garland with Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro. That's a really good young team that the Cleveland Cavaliers are building after a year in which they made it into the NBA play-in tournament. Who wins this trade idea? That's my last question for all of you. CLE for the Cavs, WAS for the Washington Wizards. I'm going Cavs because they get the best player in Bradley Beal. You let me know, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/chatsportstv, as we approach 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, and on Rumble, we're approaching 2,000 followers. Rumble.com/NBA Now. When you're there, hit that green follow button. Thank you so much for tuning in to NBA Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. Cookies. We're getting buckets here at Chat Sports.